Imagine standing on the sidewalk of, a quiet Colorado town on a sunny June afternoon. You're just going about your day, and suddenly you feel the pavement start to vibrate.
Right, like an earthquake.
Exactly. And you look down the street, and crawling toward you is this 85-ton windowless block of solid concrete and steel, and it's just crushing cars like soda cans.
It is a terrifying image.
It really is. The local police are firing hundreds of rounds into it, and the bullets are literally just pinging off harmlessly. They throw explosives at it, and when the smoke clears, the machine hasn't even been dented.
Yeah, not a scratch.
So today, we are looking at a stack of sources detailing exactly that scenario. Welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to explore one of the most astonishing, destructive, and honestly, fiercely debated acts of local vengeance in modern history.
It really is.
We're heading to the small town of Granby, Colorado in the late 1990s and early 2000s to examine how a localized zoning dispute birthed a homemade, unstoppable tank.
Yeah, and it is a genuinely staggering sequence of events to analyze. We are going to look closely at the mechanical reality of this machine, right? The undeniable, almost terrifying engineering ingenuity required to actually build it.
Which is mind-blowing.
It is.
Yeah.
But we also have to navigate the extremely polarized legacy it left behind. Because when you look at the raw facts of what happened in Granby, you are essentially looking at the absolute breaking point of the human mind, just made physically manifest in steel and concrete.
Right. And to understand that breaking point, we can't just start with the machine itself. We have to start with the man and the perceived injustice that pushed him into the workshop in the first place.
Exactly.
The sources we have center entirely around a man named Marvin Heemeyer.
Yes. So in the late 1990s, Heemeyer was a highly skilled professional welder, and he owned and operated a small muffler repair shop in Granby.
Just a local guy.
Yeah, by all accounts provided in our material, he was a relatively ordinary guy running a local business. But the catalyst for everything that follows was this zoning decision by the city administration.
Right, the concrete plant.
Exactly. They approved the construction of a massive concrete manufacturing plant directly in front of Heemeyer's muffler shop.
Okay, let's unpack this because if you own a small retail or repair business, your livelihood depends entirely on visibility and access. Right.
100%.
So a giant concrete factory suddenly going up right on your doorstep isn't just like a minor inconvenience. We are talking about heavy industrial trucks constantly blocking the road.
Thick concrete dust everywhere.
Yeah, dust covering your property. Immense industrial noise. According to the sources, this new factory effectively suffocated his business. It was a complete financial death knell.
And that economic threat is what triggered a whole cascade of bitter legal and bureaucratic battles. I mean, Heemeyer actively engaged with the system at first.
He didn't just snap immediately.
Yeah. No. He went to city council meetings to protest the zoning. He filed lawsuits. He appealed the decisions. He spent years trying to use every single official legal channel available to find what he believed was a fair resolution. Because, his livelihood was being destroyed.
Well, let me jump in here, because this is the part of the story where things usually end for most people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have all experienced some form of bureaucratic frustration. You fight City Hall, you spend a fortune on lawyers, you ultimately lose the zoning board dispute, and then, well, you angrily sell your property or you move away.
You cut your losses.
Exactly. So how does a person's mindset shift from losing a tedious legal battle to deciding that extreme, highly destructive vigilantism is the only path forward?
Well, this raises a really important question about the psychology of grievance. The sources indicate a total catastrophic collapse of his faith in the social contract.
Well,
yeah. Heemeyer knocked on every door, and at every turn, he felt he was denied justice by this network of local insiders. He lost the battles, but more importantly, he became utterly convinced that the system was fundamentally rigged against him.
like it wasn't just bad luck, it was a conspiracy against him.
Right. And when a person believes that the very institutions designed to arbitrate fairness are totally corrupt, they experience a profound, dangerous isolation. The world shrinks down to a binary,
Yeah.
the corrupt system on one side and himself on the other.
So he felt he had exhausted every peaceful option and the law refused to protect him.
Exactly.
So he decided to take the law into his own hands. But because he was a master welder, his response to that isolation wasn't just to, write an angry letter to the editor.
No.
His response was deeply, terrifyingly industrial.
Precisely. His grievance transformed into an obsessive 18-month secret project. A year and a half of hidden, just painstaking labor. He retreated into his shop, took his professional skills as a welder, and began to weaponize them against the town.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the engineering details outlined in our sources are they are mind-boggling.
They really are.
I want to spend some time here, because he didn't just build a homemade bomb or, throw some armor on a pickup truck. He started with a Komatsu D355A bulldozer.
Yeah.
For those listening who don't work in heavy construction, can you explain what that actually is? Because we aren't talking about a little tractor you see at a suburban housing development, right?
Oh, not at all. The Komatsu D355A is an absolute behemoth of an earth mover. It's a track-type tractor, primarily used in major mining operations or massive industrial grading.
So it's huge.
It is designed to push literal mountains of earth and rock. It possesses immense horsepower and, more importantly, immense torque.
Yeah.
It is a machine built purely for unstoppable forward momentum.
But even a massive earth mover is vulnerable if the driver's sitting in a glass cab.
Right. A single bullet could stop the operator.
Exactly. So over those 18 months, in secret, Heemeyer engineered a custom impenetrable armor system to enclose that cab. To help you visualize this, think of a bank vault.
That's right.
Usually a vault is stationary, right? Built into a building to keep people out of a specific room. Heemeyer took the concept of a bank vault, inverted it so it wrapped tightly around the vehicle's cabin, and put it on heavy Caterpillar tracks.
And the composition of that armor is what made it so formidable. What's fascinating here is that he created what the sources call an armor sandwich.
An armor sandwich?
Yeah. He took thick plates of steel, welded them into a shell, and then poured a full foot of solid concrete between those steel layers.
Wait, a foot of solid concrete?
A foot.
Suspended on a moving vehicle. I mean, the sheer weight of that is difficult to comprehend. How does a tractor engine even carry that much extra weight without the suspension just instantly snapping or the engine overheating and dying?
Well, that is exactly why he chose the Komatsu D355A. A standard vehicle's axles would snap under that load immediately. But an industrial track-type tractor distributes weight across these massive steel treads, and its engine is geared for low-speed, high-torque hauling.
Oh, I see.
Even so, the final machine weighed a staggering 85 tons.
85 tons? That is just unreal.
It is. But what's fascinating here is the psychological weight of that engineering process.
Yeah.
Think about the physical reality of what he was doing in that shop for 18 months in secret.
Yeah.
Hoisting thick steel plates, welding them perfectly, pouring a foot of heavy concrete layer by layer, day after day. With every weld, he was physically insulating himself from a world he felt had betrayed him.
He was building an impenetrable barrier between himself and society. And the practical result of that concrete and steel sandwich was a shell that could withstand high-caliber bullets and even small explosives without a scratch.
Completely impervious.
But if you wrap a bulldozer cab in a foot of concrete and steel, you create a massive logistical nightmare. The driver is completely blind, and you can't just cut glass windows into a foot-thick armored box. That creates a structural weak point.
And this is where the ingenuity becomes particularly chilling. Heemeyer had to innovate a completely enclosed navigation system. He installed multiple exterior cameras on the outside of the armored shell.
And they didn't just get shot out.
Well, he encased them in bulletproof plastic shields so they couldn't be easily destroyed. He then wired those external cameras to interior monitors mounted inside the dark cabin.
So he essentially created a closed-circuit, virtual reality driving system.
Exactly.
He could navigate an 85-ton machine through a town without ever exposing a single inch of himself to the outside world. I mean, it is brilliant, but it is so incredibly dark.
It was very dark.
And he knew once he sealed himself inside, he wasn't coming out. But you can't just sit in a sealed metal and concrete box. You would suffocate or overheat within an hour from the engine heat and the lack of oxygen.
Right, but he accounted for that too.
Yeah.
He built the armored dome over the cab with complete life support systems.
You kidding?
No, we are talking about installed air conditioning to counter the engine heat. We are talking about compressed air systems designed to keep him alive, breathing comfortably, and focused inside this sealed tomb for hours on end.
Wow.
He wasn't planning a quick hit and run. He was preparing for a sustained, methodical siege.
And it wasn't just a defensive bunker either. He designed it to be highly offensive. He engineered specialized internal gun ports strategically placed around the cabin.
Yes.
And the firepower he brought inside was heavy. Our sources specifically note a Barrett M82.55 caliber rifle, along with a .223 caliber assault rifle.
Right, and to give that context, a .50 caliber rifle is an anti-material weapon. It is designed by the military to disable light vehicles or pierce thick armor from a distance.
It's huge.
It is vastly more powerful than a standard hunting rifle.
So he has heavy armor-piercing weaponry firing out of specialized ports, all from within the safety of his life-supported, air-conditioned, camera-guided vault. I mean, the sheer technical prowess required to fabricate this 85-ton behemoth entirely in secret without anyone in town realizing that the guy at the muffler shop was building a soup weapon is staggering.
It's hard to believe.
But an 85-ton machine of vengeance eventually has to move. And the theoretical isolation of that workshop was about to become a devastating physical reality for Granby.
Exactly. On June 4, 2004, the 18 months of silent, hidden labor culminated in a violent release. Heemeyer sealed himself inside the cab, lowered the final armored shell into place, and used the machine to literally burst through the wall of his own workshop.
Just drove right through the wall.
Drove right out. The Killdozer, as it would come to be known, was unleashed onto the streets.
I want you, the listener, to really put yourself in that town on that afternoon. Imagine being a local police officer. You get a call about a bulldozer tearing up a building. You show up with your standard issue sidearm and a shotgun, probably expecting a construction accident or a drunk driver. Instead, you are facing a homemade tank. You throw every single thing your department has at it, and you slowly realize there is absolutely nothing you can do to stop it from moving forward.
It's a feeling of total helplessness.
Yeah.
And the timeline of the rampage, provided in the sources, is highly specific and chilling. The entire event lasted 2 hours and 7 minutes from start to finish.
Wow. 2 hours.
Yeah, with the core period of absolute unrestrained destruction concentrated into about 90 minutes.
And we need to clarify, this wasn't just a blind, chaotic drive through town. He wasn't swerving into random houses. Heemeyer was on a highly specific, predetermined mission.
Yes, very calculated.
He was systematically hunting down the buildings associated with his enemies, the specific people and local institutions he blamed for his financial ruin.
The target list was incredibly deliberate. He drove that 85-ton machine directly into the Granby Town Hall, just crushing it. He destroyed the police station.
Unbelievable.
He navigated to the home of the town's former mayor and leveled it.
And he went straight for the concrete factory itself, right? The very business that sparked the entire zoning dispute years earlier, and he just tore it apart.
Tore it to the ground.
He demolished a local newspaper office that had editorialized against him, and he destroyed a bank. The machine was agonizingly slow. We are talking about a top speed of maybe a few miles per hour.
Like a walking pace.
Yeah, but that slowness almost made it more terrifying. It was like lava. You can easily outrun it, but you cannot stop it from consuming your property.
And the police response was frantic, but entirely ineffective. SWAT teams arrived. Officers were literally climbing onto the moving bulldozer, desperately trying to find a weak point.
While it's moving.
While it's moving. They were firing down into the exhaust ports, trying to drop flashbangs inside. Yeah. But the armor held perfectly. Bullets just bounced off.
So he's completely safe inside.
Yeah. Heemeyer just sat in his air-conditioned cab, checking his camera monitors, steering the tractor, and methodically erasing the town's infrastructure.
By the time the dust finally began to settle, the scale of the devastation was immense. He had completely demolished over 13 major buildings in Granby.
13 buildings.
For a small town, the financial toll was catastrophic. The property damage was estimated at roughly $5 to $7 million.
That is a massive hit.
It is. And just to contextualize that, for you, $5 to $7 million in structural damage for a small municipality of barely a couple thousand people is enough to entirely bankrupt local budgets. It can wipe out municipal services for years.
It was a staggering blow to the community. But, you know, every machine, no matter how brilliantly engineered, is bound by the laws of physics. The unstoppable momentum of the rampage eventually had to meet an immovable architectural reality.
Right, because it wasn't the police force that ultimately stopped the Killdozer, it was the town itself.
Exactly.
The machine had crashed into a local hardware store, tearing down the walls. But as it moved over the rubble, the immense 85-ton weight of the machine caused the floor beneath it to collapse.
It just gave way.
Yeah, the Killdozer fell into the basement of the hardware store. One of its tracks dropped into the cavity, and the massive engine simply couldn't find purchase to pull that much weight back up at an angle. It was finally physically trapped.
The engine was reportedly still roaring, pumping black smoke into the air, but the physical rampage had ended. The local police and the heavily armed SWAT team finally had a stationary target.
Right.
So they surrounded the basement, preparing for a long, dangerous process of breaching the concrete and steel armor with industrial cutting torches.
But they never had to breach it to get to him.
No, they didn't.
As the SWAT team closed in on the exterior, locked inside his impenetrable air-conditioned dome, Marvin Heemeyer took a .357 caliber handgun and ended his own life.
The sudden silence in that town. After 2 hours of tearing metal, collapsing brick, and constant gunfire, it must have been deafening.
And here is perhaps the most miraculous detail in this entire stack of sources. Despite 13 buildings being utterly leveled, despite a 90-minute rampage through a populated town with an 85-ton armored tank equipped with high-powered rifles, Marvin Heemeyer was the only casualty.
It really is a miracle.
Not a single other person was killed or injured that day.
It is a profound stroke of luck. It is largely attributed to the extremely slow speed of the machine, which gave the police just enough time to run ahead of it and evacuate the targeted buildings before they were crushed.
Right, they were literally running door to door.
Yeah. But the absolute lack of civilian casualties remains a crucial defining detail of the historical record here.
In the immediate aftermath, the authorities were left with this 85-ton metal corpse sitting in the middle of their ruined town. They eventually pulled the machine from the rubble of the hardware store basement.
But they didn't preserve it.
No, they didn't. The sources note that the authorities systematically cut the Killdozer into pieces using blowtorches and sold the metal entirely for scrap. Their explicit intention was to erase its physical presence from the earth so it couldn't become like a morbid tourist attraction.
Right. But the physical destruction of the Killdozer was really just the beginning of its myth. And this is where we have to examine the deeply divided legacy of June 4, 2004.
Which is very intense.
Very. And we want to be incredibly clear with you, the listener, right now. We are not taking a side on this debate. Our job is to objectively report what the sources reveal about how society has fractured over the meaning of this event.
Right.
Because the polarization is extreme.
On one side of the debate, people look at the facts and see a highly dangerous, fundamentally deranged criminal.
Right.
They point out that he built gun ports and brought a .50 caliber rifle into the cab, proving he was prepared to kill police officers. They see a man who caused millions of dollars of senseless destruction, terrorized an entire community, and recklessly endangered countless innocent lives over a mundane local zoning dispute.
Yes.
To this group, there is no romance here. He is a violent extremist, full stop.
Conversely, on the other side of the debate, there is a vocal segment of the public that views Heemeyer through an entirely different lens.
Yeah.
They look at the fact that nobody else was killed, and they focus on his meticulous targeting of the specific institutions that ruined him. To them, he represents the ultimate desperate pushback against a corrupt, unfeeling bureaucratic system that routinely crushes the little guy.
Like a modern folk hero.
Exactly. They view his extreme actions as a tragic yet understandable anti-establishment rebellion against institutional bullying.
So what does this all mean? Let's take a step back and recap this incredible journey. We started with a localized dispute over a muffler shop and a concrete factory. We watched as a man, feeling utterly defeated by the legal system, retreated into isolation.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes clear why this story endures. An extreme act of destruction like this often acts as a mirror for society's own latent frustrations.
That's a great point.
When people debate the Killdozer, they aren't just arguing about a modified Komatsu tractor. They are projecting their own feelings of powerlessness in the face of modern bureaucracy.
It is a story that highlights a deeply dangerous intersection. When you take profound psychological isolation, mix it with a deep-seated perception of systemic injustice, and arm it with highly specialized technical skill, the result is an 85-ton nightmare.
It serves as a stark historical reminder of what can happen when an individual firmly believes the social contract has been entirely broken and that society's rules just no longer apply to them.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a lingering thought. It's something to chew on that builds right out of those final actions by the authorities. As we discussed, the officials in Granby painstakingly cut the Killdozer